Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel War Zone. Today we're diving into a major development, the announcement by Belarus that changes everything in the Russo-Ukrainian conflict. This isn't just a tweak or shift in policy, it could reshape the strategic balance, the alliances, the threat profile, and even the entire dynamic of the war. We'll walk through the exterior, what the announcement literally looks like on the geopolitical stage, the interior, what it means inside the country and for its leadership and forces, performance, how this change could actually affect the conduct of operations, safety features, how this affects risk, escalation, and deterrence, the unique selling points of Belarus's move for Belarus itself and for its allies, the price, what Belarus pays or expects to pay, and what others stand to lose, and finally a conclusion summarizing what this means going forward. Starting with the exterior, imagine Belarus stepping forward into a new role. It's not just a back ally to Russia anymore, it is sending a signal that it is taking a more active, perhaps even more independent, stake in the war. For example, according to recent reporting, Belarus is hosting dozens of Russian nuclear weapons and is preparing facilities for advanced missiles. Also, in a treaty with Russia, Belarus secured mutual security guarantees that formally bring Belarus into a closer strategic relationship with Moscow. On the surface, this looks like Belarus is shifting from a passive platform for Russian operations to a more forward-facing actor in its own right. In terms of optics, this changes how other countries view Belarus, from a satellite to a strategic partner, perhaps even a co-player. That exterior shift also gives Belarus a new kind of leverage, because when you host strategic weapons, you become more than a geography point. You become a node in the deterrence architecture. So externally, the announcement is bold, provocative, and designed to reposition Belarus on the map of great power competition. Allies, adversaries, neutrals will all take note. Turning to the interior, inside Belarus, this announcement carries significant weight. For Belarusian leadership, it signals a domestic assertion of strength. We matter. We are not just supporting Russia, we are a strategic player. It likely has implications for the military apparatus, new weapon systems, new bases, new logistics chains, as well as for domestic propaganda and legitimacy. Projecting this move publicly strengthens the narrative of the regime being relevant, important, and indispensable. For the populace and for the military ranks, it raises expectations and also risk. Being aligned into higher stakes operations means higher profile, higher risk of retaliation, higher resource drain. So while the interior paragraph is short, the announcement functions as a domestic message of power, indispensability, and elevated status inside Belarus. Now, performance. How will this announcement actually affect operational realities in the war? First, by hosting or positioning advanced weapons including nuclear or hypersonic capable systems, Belarus increases the depth of threat perimeter for Ukraine and potentially other neighboring states. That means Ukraine must now worry not only about Russian launches across the border, but also Belarus as a staging area or direct threat. This could force Ukraine to divert resources, adjust its operational tempo, increase reconnaissance, air defense, and border fortification efforts on the Belarus-Ukraine axis. Second, Belarus's strategic posture could increase Russian and Belarusian joint operations, easier to launch from Belarusian territory, with Belarus infrastructure supporting logistics, airfields, missile deployments, training grounds. Performance of the war machine may pick up tempo or complexity. It might allow Russia or Belarus to outflank or bypass certain Ukrainian defenses, expand territory, open new fronts, or threaten more widely. Third, the announcement may also affect the strategic calculus of Western allies. If Belarus is becoming more active and integrated into Russia's offensive/defensive architecture, then sanctions, supplies, intelligence sharing, and deterrence measures will have to adapt. The war's performance dimension shifts, one more axis of threat, one more front of impact, greater complexity. So the performance on the battlefield changes, higher risk of escalation, new threat vectors, greater need for intelligence, slower advances perhaps, or under heavier threat of counterstrike. Next, safety features, or let's say risk mitigation, deterrence, and how this announcement affects stability. On one hand, by taking on a bigger role and hosting strategic systems, Belarus believes it is boosting its deterrent capability. Attack us or our territory, you risk escalation. That's a safety feature of sorts for Belarus. They raise the cost of action against them. It could also act as a stabilizer. If the West or Ukraine sees Belarus as nuclear-armed staging ground, they might hesitate to act, thus reducing certain types of attacks, though not all. On the other hand, there are major risks. With this announcement, Belarus becomes a more legitimate target in the eyes of Ukraine and possibly of Western countries if Belarus is directly assisting or enabling attacks. The threshold of involvement increases, meaning Belarus may now face retaliatory strikes, sanctions, or covert operations. Also, the presence of nuclear or hypersonic systems raises risk of miscalculation, unintended escalation, accidents, or even nuclear contamination if things go wrong. Safety features become double-edged, greater deterrence but also greater exposure. Moreover, alliance wedding to Russia means less flexibility, so Belarus loses some autonomy to de-escalate unilaterally. So the announcement changes the safety calculus, a stronger deterrent outward, a more fragile vulnerability inward. Unique selling points USP of this announcement. What does Belarus gain, and what unique advantages does this move give them? First, Belarus gains strategic importance. Many states might view Belarus as just a buffer zone. Now Belarus is a key strategic actor in its own right. That elevates its bargaining power in international diplomacy and sanctions negotiations. Second, Belarus gains security guarantees. Tying itself more deeply into the Russian security architecture means Belarus receives more backing, which may protect it from external pressure, so making its regime more secure. Third, Belarus has a unique geographic advantage. It borders Ukraine and lies between Russia and Western Europe. By leveraging that geographical position with advanced weapons and strategic status, Belarus transforms its location from passive terrain to an active pivot in the war. That is a unique selling point. Fourth, for Russia this is a USP. Having Belarus more fully integrated amplifies Russia's ability to project force westwards, to host strategic systems further west, to complicate NATO's eastern flank. For Belarus, by playing this role, it may expect economic/humanitarian/technical backing, investment, or at least political recompense. Fifth, the move could create a deterrence umbrella or perception of one. Belarus can say to its neighbors, we are now part of a bigger security architecture. Incursions or attacks on us will be considered major escalations. That unique selling point is invaluable in strategic signaling. Now, the price. What does Belarus pay for this move, and what does the world pay? For Belarus, obviously, the cost is increased dependence on Russia. By deepening alignment and hosting foreign strategic weapons, Belarus gives up some degree of decision-making autonomy, commits to what could be expensive military logistics, maintenance, and infrastructure upgrades. There is also the cost of sanctions or diplomatic isolation. The West may impose further measures against Belarus. Its economy may suffer, or its citizens may face constraints. Furthermore, the human cost. By hosting advanced weaponry and engaging more directly, Belarus may pay with the lives of its citizens or soldiers, or become a target of cross-border action or sabotage. For the world/Ukraine/NATO/Western allies, the price is higher risk of escalation, more complex conflict, greater need to monitor Belarusian territory, higher defense spending, additional front lines. There is also the price of deterrence. If Belarus now hosts nuclear weapons, the cost of miscalculation goes up for everyone. The global price, an emboldened authoritarian actor with bigger capacity, reducing the margin of restraint and increasing unpredictability. In short, Belarus is trading autonomy and neutrality or quasi-neutrality for strategic relevance, but at the cost of becoming a high-stakes node in a major war. Conclusion: this announcement by Belarus changes the strategic map. It's not just incremental, it signals a shift from a supporting role to a central role, from passive geography to active participant. For Belarus, this is about power, relevance, security, and leverage. For Ukraine and for Western governments, it adds a new axis of challenge, complicates defense planning, raises stakes, and increases risk. What should we watch for next? How Belarus implements the announcement, whether it actually hosts and deploys the systems, how it integrates with Russian forces, how Ukraine and NATO respond. Will sanctions and diplomatic pressure increase? Will Belarus take part in offensive operations or stay primarily defensive? How will the Western alliance adjust their deterrence posture? The key will be in the follow-through. Announcements are one thing, actual battlefield shifts are another. If the announcement is genuine and executed, Belarus could become a strategic pivot in the war, significantly altering the tempo and scope of operations. If it fails to be implemented or is mostly symbolic, then it may be more about bluff than structural change. But given the current reporting, the signs indicate something more than symbolism. So there you have it: the exterior, the interior, the performance, the safety features, the unique selling points, the price, and the conclusion of this pivotal Belarus announcement. Stay tuned, because the ripple effects are just beginning. Thanks for watching War Zone. If you liked the breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe for more, ring the bell so you don't miss updates. I'll see you in the next video.